If we want to go ahead and get this meeting started on our agenda, number A, call it to order. So I will call this meeting to order, and the time is 10 a.m. If everyone would mute their mics and turn them on only when you want to speak, and remind everybody, I would like to remind everybody that we need to say our name before we start speaking so that it can be recorded. Any questions on that? Okay, I'll move on to B, calling the roll. And so, Angelica, if you would like to do that, please.
Yes, ma'am. Michael Fitch. Mr. Fitch, I see you there. You turn your mic for me.
There we go. Couldn't find it. Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Perfect. Mr. Ronald Hebert.
Present.
Dr. David Schmidt.
Present.
Mr. David Weir.
Present.
And Presiding Officer Brittany Webb.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Great. Moving on to C.
Presiding officer, I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt, but before Robert begins his training, we do have one of our commissioners here with us, Commissioner High. I just wanted to acknowledge her presence, and I appreciate her. So the commissioners kind of have, for all of our advisory boards, they're ones that they follow more closely, right? So they may have more questions about. It's just kind of to keep everyone better abreast, and we have so much, no one can know everything. So Commissioner High is joining us today. Sometimes those commissioners watch after, sometimes they will watch on YouTube during, but I appreciate her for being in the midst. And I just wanted to give her that opportunity to say something if she wanted to.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been on, Commissioner High speaking. I've been on the commission for almost a year now, and I haven't gotten a chance to visit all the advisory boards that I'm one of the contacts for, but I know Athletic Trainers is one of the advisory boards that I just wanted to touch base with, just wanted to introduce myself and listen in today. I've read a little bit about, and actually I did watch one of your previous meetings. So I know a little bit, but I'm sure I have a lot to learn and look forward to doing that with you today. So thanks for having me with you.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Turning it back over to you. I just didn't want to let that moment pass.
Thank you, Brittany Webb here. Thank you, Lori, for being here today. And we are a very passionate group. Our board is, and so welcome aboard. Going to agenda C, and this is our open government training. And so Robert Reyes will be able to do this section.
Thank you, Ms. Webb. My name is Robert Reyes, Office of General Counsel. I'll be providing the open government training for you all this morning. Can you all see that blue screen? All right. As I said, my name is Robert Reyes. I'll be presenting the advisory board training for open government this morning to you all. We're going to cover three items this morning: the Open Meetings Act, the Public Information Act, and the Administrative Procedure Act.
Robert, I'm sorry. Are you sharing?
I am trying.
Okay, one second.
Yeah, I'm not seeing. Okay.
It is coming now. Hold on. There we go. Awesome.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. So I'll just back up a little bit. So three items that we'll be covering this morning: the Open Meetings Act, the Public Information Act, and the Administrative Procedure Act. First of all, the Open Meetings Act. The purpose of the Open Meetings Act is to ensure open and transparent government. The act requires meetings of governmental bodies to be open to the public and be preceded by public notice of the time, place, and subject matter of the meeting. The provisions of the act are mandatory and are liberally construed in favor of open government. The first key concept is that of a quorum. A quorum is a majority of the members of the advisory board or committee as fixed by rule or statute. A quorum of a governmental body, including an advisory board such as this one, must meet in order to take an official action. If less than a quorum meets, the board or committee may have discussion, but may not take an official action. Since we have 5 positions on this advisory board, a quorum is 3. Another key concept is that of deliberation. Deliberation or discussion means a verbal or written exchange among a quorum of a governmental body or between a quorum of a governmental body and another person concerning an issue with the jurisdiction of the governmental body. A meeting occurs anytime, and we have to stress that, anytime a quorum of governmental body engages in deliberation, discussion, regarding public business or public policy over which the governmental body has supervision or control, or any time the body takes formal action. The act requires advance written notice of the date, time, place, and subject of each meeting held. The department provides this notice in the form of an agenda, which has been filed. Notice has been filed with the Texas Secretary of State for at least 7 days before a meeting and must be posted online by both TDLR and the Secretary of State. A board or committee may not engage in discussions about a subject that is not included on that specific agenda. So here's a real-world example for us. Keep it in mind that a meeting occurs whenever a quorum of a governmental body engages in discussion about an issue within the governmental body's jurisdiction. Can members ever meet in an informal setting, such as a party or at a convention, without violating the Open Meetings Act? The answer is yes. Members are free to engage in conversation that is incidental to that event. However, the discussion will be subject to the Open Meetings Act if a quorum of members is involved, 3 or more in this case, and the members either engage in a discussion or make decisions about board or committee business or take formal action. The key points to remember: always be aware of any situation occurring outside of a properly noticed meeting in which a quorum of members is present or engaged in discussion. Do not engage in substantive conversations relating to board or committee business or policy when a quorum is involved and you are outside of an officially noticed and scheduled meeting. Therefore, please beware of this walking quorum. A walking quorum occurs when fewer than a quorum of members engage in discussion about official business, so 2 or less, but then communicate those discussions to other members. While fewer than a quorum of members participate in the initial communication, subsequent communication with other members will result in a quorum discussing official business outside of a public meeting. For example, on a 5-member advisory board like this, 2 members exchange phone calls and emails expressing thoughts on an upcoming rule change and exchange research that they have each individually performed regarding the issue. One of the board members subsequently forwards the exchange to another member. The members have now engaged in a walking quorum by engaging in a small group discussion outside of a properly noticed board meeting. Walking quorums can occur in many circumstances: during conference calls, video conferences, hallway discussions, emails, text messages, and other new technologies. The walking quorum concept, combined with newer technologies such as Twitter, Facebook, and instant messaging, raise new issues about meetings and compliance with Open Meetings Act. When in doubt, please do not communicate with others on the board. To avoid a walking quorum, members should not meet in small groups, discuss board or committee business, and then communicate those discussions to other members. They should not send emails or text messages to a quorum of members regarding official business, even if each email is addressed and sent to each member individually. Members should not create posts on social media about board business where a likelihood exists that a quorum of members could participate in discussions. Nor should members ask a quorum of members, even on an individual basis, for feedback or comments on board or committee business outside of the public meeting. This is called polling, which is essentially conducting an informal vote on an issue. Guidelines for open sessions. A board or committee is limited to discussing the specific items on the agenda. This is important for things and events that are coming up later today. During the public comment portion of the meeting, which we will have today, members of the public are given an opportunity to speak, and the presiding officer may set reasonable limits on commenters. A member of the public or a member of the board may raise a subject that has not been included in the agenda set for today. However, any discussion of the subject must be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda for a future meeting. Guidelines and best practices for open sessions. To avoid violating this act on the basis of insufficient notice, members should limit discussions to the specific agenda contained in the posting filed with the Secretary of State and also on the department's website. Should avoid allowing discussions regarding specific agenda items to wander off course into new issues that have not been noticed to the public. Should not respond to or discuss issues that are raised during public comment, but which are not on the agenda. And lastly, we should specifically identify items for future agendas and communicate those items to TDLR staff. There are potential penalties for violating the Open Meetings Act. Regarding civil remedies, any interested person, including the media, may petition the courts to stop actions taken in violation of the Open Meetings Act. The Open Meetings Act also specifically states that an action taken in violation of it is voidable. Criminal penalties. Members who knowingly participate in a walking quorum or who knowingly participate in a meeting that is closed to the public are subject to misdemeanor criminal penalties. Those penalties can be a fine in the range of $100 to $500, confinement in county jail for 1 to 6 months, or both the fine and jail time. It's very important that we stick to the Open Meetings Act and everything that's in it. Best practices. Avoid communications that involve a quorum of board or committee members about official business outside of a properly noticed meeting. And second, during open meetings, confine discussion to items specifically posted on the agenda. We have some resources here on screen. These resources are also in your materials that were sent to you earlier this week. If you have a question, please feel free to call us. Your question will get routed to me, be happy to answer it, or communicate it to Ms. Winston, who will communicate it on our behalf. Next up is the Public Information Act. Public Information Act, also known as Open Records Act, is intended to allow public access to information about the affairs of government and the official acts of public officials and employees. The act makes all documents, I need to stress that, all documents, records, and other information relating to official business open to the public, with some exceptions. Public information includes any electronic communication created, transmitted, received, or maintained on any device if it is in connection with official agency business. The Act is construed liberally in favor of granting requests for information. For requests received, If you receive a written request for records or correspondence that looks like a public information request, please forward the request to the Office of General Counsel and our Open Records team as soon as possible. If our Open Records team requests information from you, please respond as soon as possible. We have a duty to promptly respond to that request. The department must respond to the request as soon as possible, but no later than 10 business days after receiving the request. We cannot ask why someone wants their records. We can only ask for clarifications through our Open Records team. The general rule and common exceptions or exemptions to disclosure. The general rule is a presumption of openness and therefore transparency. Certain information is required to be redacted from open records. Those examples include your date of birth, any date of birth that's included, most email addresses, driver's license, license plate, and VIN records, credit card numbers, and any sort of medical information. Another quick note on this type of information that can be released. Pursuant to the general rule, communications through your personal phone regarding advisory board business may expose your phone's content to disclosure. So please keep that in mind when something pops up and you may just want to send a quick text or a quick email to others on the board. Again, some more Information Act resources, which you can find in your materials. Lastly, the Administrative Procedure Act. The purpose of the APA is to establish minimum standards of uniform practice and procedure for state agencies. It also provides for public participation and transparency during the rulemaking process. A rule is a statement of general applicability made by a state that either implements, interprets, or prescribes law or policy, or describes the procedure or practice requirements of a state agency. A rule excludes a statement regarding only the internal management or organization of a state agency and not affecting private rights or procedures. A rule includes a new rule, an amendment to an existing rule, or the repeal of an existing rule. Our sources for rulemaking. Rulemaking can begin either with legislative changes, ideas from advisory boards. Department staff can come up with ideas for new rules or amendments to rules. The 4-year rule review is also a source for rulemaking, as well as a rule petition. Regarding rule petitions, any interested person may submit a petition to a state agency requesting the adoption of a rule. An interested person is anyone who is a Texas resident, a business entity located in Texas, a governmental subdivision in Texas, or a public or private organization that is not a state agency but is located in Texas. You see our little snake of a rulemaking process there. We start off with the rule idea or drafting from those sources that I just talked about. We start developing the idea, start putting things down on paper. Once we have things formatted and have the idea in writing, the concept in writing, it then gets sent to review by the governor's office. At the same time, or shortly thereafter, we have our first advisory board meeting to offer the proposed language to the advisory board. If that is voted on and recommended for filing and publishing with the Texas Register, it's done so. The public comment period is then 30 days. General Counsel and the department then review the public comments. And then we have a second advisory board meeting to offer those comments and any changes that we might want to make or think about making up to the advisory board. Once we have the final version, or what we hope is the final version of the language locked down. The proposed rules are adopted at a commission meeting after they are set and put on the commission agenda. Adoption notice is filed and published in the Texas Register, which also includes the effective date of the rule. And as of that effective date, the rule goes into effect and should be followed by those in the industry and those who are part and will use the rules for their benefit and that of the public. The the rule review process, 4-year rule review process is a little bit cleaner and shorter. We have a schedule every year, and programs come up on a 4-year cycle. We file a notice of intent to review. The public then has 30 days to comment on whether the rules are necessary, if there should be any changes, or if anybody has any thoughts regarding the rules. The Office of General Counsel then reviews the comments and makes a recommendation to the commission regarding the necessity for those rules. Usually, if there is a statutory law still in effect, the rules will stay in effect. Commission will review the rule filing and comments and may adopt the rule, and then the advisory board will be presented any comments and may recommend changes. And finally, our rulemaking resources, which again are in the information packet that the board received earlier. Again, please call our office if you have any questions. Be happy to answer any of anything that pops up.
Thank you very much for that.
Sure thing. Let me see how I can stop sharing now. Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you, Robert.
Sure thing. Thank you all.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to D on our agenda, and that is the approval of the minutes from our November meeting of 2020. And before I ask the board members if they have any comments regarding the meetings from our November the 2nd, 2020, I just want to say thank y'all for getting us started back on meetings, regular meetings. We needed this. It's been a long time. And so I appreciate us having this meeting and get our industry meetings back on schedule. So does any of the board members have any comments regarding the minutes from November 2020?
Brittany, were those sent out? They were not a part of this meeting packet, so I've not seen minutes.
It should have been included, Mr. Weir. Let me. In the board materials I sent out a few days ago, they were included.
Can we possibly?
Yes, let me
Okay.
share this real quick.
All right. Well, Robert is still sharing.
Oh.
So we have to, all this time, there are still technical difficulties that arise. So if Robert can unshare, we can.
I apologize. I'm trying. I lost the screen.
I know. Oh.
Maybe the host can stop his sharing.
Let's see if we can do that. And sometimes literally, if you move from spot to spot, even in the building, when you're on these, you have to make sure you have the right microphone. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay. Angelica, can you share?
Second.
So, Angelica, I had 23 pages that was a part of this packet, and I just flipped through everything. I didn't see it. So if you can tell me what page.
Yes, I'm gonna go ahead and share it right now for you.
And I want to ask if everyone else got it. We want to make sure if we had any snafus that we catch that.
It was missed. My apologies for sure.
I reviewed mine and don't see the minutes.
Okay. Okay. So,
Yes.
Mr. Weir, we're going to get this shared for you and go as we don't want to speed to, but I know you're a fast reader, but you want to take a look at it. And when you were ready to
I'm not, I mean, trying to read this on this screen is
it's
not,
not going to work. Okay.
no,
So
I mean,
if,
it's that minutes should have been sent. So, you know, if
okay.
we're supposed to
So
approve those.
did everyone else? I know Dr. Schmidt received his, and if the other members received theirs, you can always abstain if you want to take a vote.
I,
If not, we can pass it until the next meeting.
I did not receive mine.
Okay.
I did
Okay,
not
my
receive a,
apologies. I guess we'll have to move to the next one. My apologies.
So,
Okay.
Brittany,
we'll-
presiding officer,
We'll
we,
put those on the next agenda to approve.
that's right. We can approve the 2 sets of minutes on our next meeting,
Okay.
and we'll make sure we get those in there. Dr. Schmidt, I don't know how you ended up being the lucky one, but we will make sure we fix this. And Brittany, whenever you're ready, we can move on. We passed on this one, which we'll make a note of in our minutes, and we can move on to E whenever you're ready.
Okay, so moving on to E, this is our public comments. The Advisory Board of Athletic Trainers received two emailed public comments that were sent to the board yesterday, and 4 requests to give public comments during the meeting. These 4 people are Billy Laxton and Sherry Ann Miller. Andy Green and Melissa Long wish to speak this morning. They have 3 minutes to give their public comments, and the board will not be allowed to ask questions or discuss anything during each public comment. I would like to invite Mr. Laxton to turn on his screen. Thank you for being here today. When you begin speaking, state your name and who you represent. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please understand that the board members are not allowed to ask any questions or engage in any discussions with you. Do you understand these instructions? Okay, he's nodding yes. You have 3 minutes, and Helica will keep the time, and you can start when you're ready.
Okay. I want to apologize for Sherry Ann. She's trying to log back on. When we were in the lobby, we were timed out, and so she should be signing on pretty quick. She was actually supposed to go first, but it's all right. My name is Billy Ray Laxton, and I'm with the Texas State Athletic Trainers Association. I'm on the endorsement committee, co-chair with Miss Sherry Ann Miller, and this may be something foreign to y'all, but it's been in a process of 5 years of development. And the reason why is we want, just like y'all do, we want to raise the percentage of first-time pass rate in our candidates. Okay, that's the bottom line. We are very proud of Method A, the apprenticeship. We're working on to make the curriculum portion a little stronger, and we're doing it through a couple of processes, the skills, knowledge, and abilities, and along with a computer program. And that'll be what Sherry Ann speaks on. But Method A is very close to my heart. That's where I went in, joined the profession, and the committee believes that it's a deal where we want to be assisting colleges and universities that want to keep Method A in their programs and allowing folks to reach licensure that way. Now, along with that, anytime that we're working with a state agency, that we want to make sure that they understand that we're not trying to change the law or any administrative rules. We want to complement Method A. And this program is completely voluntary, meaning the schools, those universities and colleges that I named that are hosting Method Aid programs, apprenticeship, that we do not intend to only help enhance them. Okay, so no changes. And we're in our 5th year, and even during the COVID, we worked very hard in developing, being very thoughtful, making sure we use good labeling so everybody can understand, because like the communication between athletic trainers and our agency, the TDLR, and our candidates and the TDLR, we want to have great communication. So we don't want to make it tricky or confusing. So this time was brought, and we have been talking to programs. We've had lots of interest. There's about 52 programs in the state of Texas that kind of link themselves with Method A. We have active in our program right now about three four-year institutions, and we have a lot of junior colleges that are very interested in this.
Mr.
And we're
Laxton, your time
bringing
is
it to
up.
you. Pardon me?
Your time is up, Mr. Laxton.
Okay,
can
thank you.
wrap it up.
Mhm. Ooh.
Brittany, you can go on to the next one if you're ready.
Sorry, I was sitting here talking to myself because I was muted. Thank you. Thank you, Billy Ray, for your comments, and we'll move on to the next one. The next person up is Miss Miller. Thank you for being here today, Sherry Ann. When you begin speaking, state your name, please, and who you represent. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please understand that the board members are not allowed to ask any questions or engage in any discussion with you. Do you understand these instructions?
And Miss Miller, you are muted. If you could unmute. There you
Okay.
go.
Yes,
Awesome.
ma'am.
All right. You
My
can.
name is Sherry Ann Miller, and I am the co-chair of the Apprenticeship Endorsement Committee through the Texas State Athletic Trainers Association. So thank you for the opportunity to present information about the Apprenticeship Endorsement Program. The Apprenticeship Endorsement Program is a curriculum-based program developed by the Apprenticeship Endorsement Committee. The committee identified learning objectives, which are referred to as knowledge, skills, and abilities, or KSAs. The KSAs were developed with the intent that these learning objectives are what entry-level athletic trainers should possess upon graduation and sitting for the state licensure examination. The Apprenticeship Endorsement Committee requested that the TSATA board to partner with a software company known as A-Track. One of the founders of A-Track, Dr. Robert DeVargas, has been instrumental in assisting the committee with a platform for the organization and tracking of the KSAs and the clinical observation hours. This program is completely voluntary. It is the committee's focus to strive to enhance the first-time passing rates through the Method A option for the state licensure examination. The committee believes that this program will greatly assist colleges and universities, ensuring that students will be exposed to the most up-to-date KSAs that allow students to be successful on the licensure examination and in the profession of athletic training. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact Billy Ray Laxton or myself, and we will be happy to answer those questions about the program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Appreciate that. And next up is going to be Dr. Green. Thank you for being here. When you begin speaking, state your name and who you represent. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please understand that the board members are not allowed to ask any questions or engage in any discussion with you. Do you understand these instructions? Okay, she is nodding yes. You have 3 minutes, and Angelica will keep the time, and you can start when you're ready.
All right, I'm Andy Johnston Green. I'm currently the program director for the MSAT curriculum program at Tarleton State University. I'm representing students and alumni of my program, as well as several of our companion programs along the way that have similar issues with TDLR in our application process. For my program, most of our students are either going to be Method B, having passed the BOC, or they're coming in as Method D, having completed a CATIE accredited program. Some of them also have come from undergraduate programs where they actually qualify under Method A. So it applies to 3 of the 4 methods we currently have. What we have seen is a significant lag time from applying to being notified either of approval of their application or need of supporting documents. Often this isn't greater than 30 days. This is regardless if they submit an electronic application or a hard copy application. We noticed that from the process to request a transcript is simple from the institution, but again, we see a lag time of often 30+ days. Sometimes the issue is because courses are noted on the transcript to not complete the academic requirements. Often it's because there's not a common core number involved. Sometimes that match is not made up, but again, the applicants are not notified of where the hiccups are in the process. And then that brings in when the applicants do reach out to TDLR, there's not a consistent kind of frontline customer service rep. And so they get varied answers, and they may call back every day and talk to somebody different, and every day it's a different answer. And these students are taking the initiative to advocate for themselves. And we are also trying to advocate for them because it is hindering their employment processes and their ability to practice. And so we're seeing that issue. Additionally, we've had issues with communication between TDLR and PSI, the testing agency. Just 2 weeks ago, PSI told our student that it'd be 5 days before their scores would get submitted to TDLR. Actually, they had actually got their license the day before. And so that's a communication gap that can delay testing on the practical component and again, hindering the employment of our students. And so I'm here today as a program director, as an advocate, as a member of the Apprenticeship Endorsement Committee for TSATA, seeking help on how we can best solve these problems and help our students get into this profession and become active in the way that they want to be. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Green. We appreciate that. We're going to go on to the next one. Ms. Long, thank you for being here today. You're next up. When you speak, please state your name and who you represent. You have 3 minutes. Understand that the board members are not allowed to ask questions or engage in discussion with you. Do you understand these instructions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You have 3 minutes and Angelica will keep the time, and you can start when you're ready.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Melissa Long. I'm currently the program director at Abilene Christian University. I'm representing myself, but also my students and my recent alum. Basically the same. I want to mimic or echo what Dr. Green just said. That's literally half my notes, so I'm super excited to follow her. One of the other things I just wanted to point out, to piggyback with her, I actually have 2 graduates right now who cannot work because they're waiting on their TDLR licenses, even though one completed the BOC method and turned in her card over about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and she's still waiting on her license. And I have another that actually passed her written exam, waiting on her temporary license, and been waiting for almost 6 weeks for a temporary license. Both are unable to go to work because of these hiccups. The other thing I wanted to note is that on the online application process, there's the inability to select initial and temporary. So when I have students coming through the program, because we have a BOC approved, but we also have an undergrad track that is allowed, but we don't tell Katie we have that, that where they could get their license out of undergrad, whether they came to us from an undergrad program or completed undergrad here at ACU. When we have them apply through TDLR on the online application, there's the inability to select initial and temporary. So when they become test eligible for PSI and pass their written, then there's no way for them to get their temporary license if they didn't actually fill out the PDF. So again, we do call just like Dr. Green's people, and many times they get different answers based on who they talk to that day, but we've kind of figured out that then they have to download the PDF, fill out the whole application again, even though they've already paid $160 once. They've already taken their written, and then we have to mail in everything with another check for $160 to ask for temporary, and now we're just waiting. We're often waiting more than 4 weeks for a temporary license. We've even had certain phone calls that they're said, oh, you can't get your temporary until you pass the practical. And that's actually untrue because it says so right on the website. And oftentimes the poor people working that frontline phone system are just reading straight from the website, and we have to point out to them that they can. And they say, oh yeah, let me check with licensing. And then they try and get back with us. And again, we get different answers on different days. And it's really, really frustrating for a lot of our students. So I just wanted to point that out to the board and just ask that you please just look at the system and the way that we're getting our students licensed to get into our profession, because right now it's a huge hindrance. And we want them to be in this profession as soon as possible. So if there's just an online way for us to pay for a temporary license after they pass the written, but are waiting for the practical, that would be amazing. Or just maybe a faster turnover time when we have to mail things in through US mail. I'm just begging for the processes to be improved somehow. Thank you for your time.
Presiding Officer Webb, I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
wanted to add in really briefly. First, I want to ask permission for folks to reach out to you all directly who've made comments here. You did give your contact information so we could coordinate with you to give your public comment. So if that is okay, we're already working in the background and taking notes. Thank you. This is part of the reason we have these meetings. And when we mess up or we don't do what we need to do to help the profession, we listen, we take that, and we make it better. We're going to ask for specifics from these individuals so we can get this taken care of. As also, we are also increasing our processes. I want to give Michael Strawn, and all of our emails are the same. And Michael, don't kill me for it, but Michael.Strawn at tdlr.texas.gov volunteered to please reach out to him directly. That's in our E&E division. Also, Mr. Leonard Rivas in our licensing division, which is going to be leonard.rivas at tdlr.texas.gov, because we want to take care of these concerns. And I've made a note of the endorsement, how the, if it is BOC. So there are some problems that we need to take care of. Thank you. An apprenticeship and some things we have been funded for a new licensing system now, though by I think it was $32 million. That it's a lot, but we need it because we have disparate systems. No excuse, and I'm not giving one. We're going to fix this. Whether we have to do extra by hand in the background, we need to make this work. So we've taken all of you all's comments. I'm being pinged in the background immediately. Let's get this straight. We want consistent answers, not reading scripts, and we're going to work on that. So thank you for your comments, and I am going to, I've given you their information. I've asked if it's okay for them to reach back out to you. I'm getting nods. And so this will be happening after this meeting. Thank you all for those comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, for doing that. It's very important to fix these problems so that we can get athletic trainers out there working. Absolutely. Absolutely, because we are at a shortage of athletic trainers right now. So moving on to F for staff reports. Number 1, Regina Horton is up on license division. Regina?
Okay. Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Regina Horton, and I will be providing you the health professions licensing statistic reports for athletic trainers. You should have a report of the report in front of you to follow along. We have new licenses issued was 72. Renewed licenses issued was 420. Online renewals was 411. 98% of licensees renewed online, and the total population for second quarter fiscal year 2023 was 4,369. We also issued 4 temporary athletic trainer licenses. That concludes my report for fiscal year 2023 second quarter. Do you have any questions?
Board members, do y'all have any questions? Okay, we will. Thank you. We'll move on to number 2, which is Michael Strahan and Strawn, and that's Education and Examination Division.
Good morning, Presiding Chair and members. My name is Michael Strawn. I'm one of the managers here in our Education and Examination Division, here to give you our report today. At the top, you'll see the athletic trainer curriculum approval. There are none that will be removed from future reports for you all. What we've heard today is a lot of focus on exams, different things. So I'll point out the pass rate to you all. You'll notice for fiscal year 23, it is slightly lower than we saw overall for fiscal year 22, the 37% versus a 48%. However, fiscal year 22, from what we've seen overall, had the Q2, their quarter two, which was statistically higher than we normally see. Whereas fiscal year 23 is set around that 35 to 40% that we typically see quarter to quarter, year over year for this industry right now. Moving on down. This is the breakdown that we have for our written and practicals. Here's where you see, kind of the breakouts. You'll see typically our practicals have a much higher pass rate throughout the industry. We call attention to the very bottom of your screen. There's a footer that says that in FY22, we held our standard December and April practicals. However, we did hear some of the concerns from the industry about getting these athletic trainers to work. Some individuals were unable to make, the April, December practicals that were there. So we recently held one here in June as well to help get additional people in, get them tested, and obviously there's always things we can do to look to improve on those standards, as we heard today. So we're always open to those ideas, any feedback that you all have. But that was one of the areas where this year we made that available in June for everybody. And then moving on down to the very end is the jurisprudence examinations. And right now we're, almost dead on for what we've seen year to year on our jurisprudence examinations being completed for everybody. That being said, that concludes my report, and I'm open to any questions you all may have.
Board members, do y'all have any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, and Michael. I think one of the things, and just reminding board members, is that our practical numbers, our percentage pass rates are much better, and that's the reason. One of the reasons for that's just the underlying rule that you must pass the written prior to getting to the practical. So therefore, you have people there that are testing in that practical that have already showed a higher level of competence than is necessarily being demonstrated in the written. So our written is somewhat of a clearinghouse, step one, step two process. So just wanted to bring that, and don't let us forget about that, so we don't pat ourselves too quick on the back that we're doing great in the practical portion. That is a bit skewed.
Thank you, Mr. Weir. And there's always important information to have out there. Speaking of information, I am working internally on what we can do here in Education Examination Division to provide the industry with more information. We heard earlier on people talking about, trying to revamp curriculum and their trainings and everything. And that's something we hear a lot as well. And however we can provide data from these metrics, from these exams, to provide to the industry in greater detail about where they're successful within the written, what areas within that CIB that they're being tested on, to see where they can improve on is certainly an aspect we're looking at as well.
And Michael, this is Brittany Webb, and I have a comment too. Because we have the December and we have the April test dates, and I really push for that June. So thank you very much for adding the June. I think that needs to be a permanent addition. And then also we may want to think about adding maybe a July or August at one testing center. We may need to talk about that in a work group or with y'all, but I really do think we may need to add another practical at some point in the summer.
Presiding Officer Webb, certainly we can take that into account, work with our vendor, and talk to you all as well about seeing what availability we can make moving forward.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Comments, concerns? Okay, if not, I'll go on to number 3, which is Customer Service Division, and that is Myra Rodriguez.
Good morning, board members and TDLR staff. My name is Myra Rodriguez, and I am one of the managers in the customer service division for this program. So taking a look at our statistics here for this fiscal year, as you can see, we did have a peak in May for overall phone calls and emails. If you scroll down a little bit to the fiscal year 2022, we're slightly higher overall in the numbers. We don't have the stats yet for this month, but we'll see where we're at that point once we get those numbers right after the end of the month. And that is pretty much what I have for you. Do you have any questions?
Board members?
This is David Weir, Madam Chair. And one of the things I think that we're going to consistently see may be really high because of graduates and going through the application process and working through those areas. And so I think that's going to be a normal blip that you're going to see across those charts. The other thing that I just wanted to comment on, which was made light of in our public comment, and that is our consistent answering of questions. And I think this is in your division. I know one of the things that, and historically we've I guess, somewhat spoken about, and Commissioner as well, is that looking at channeling our calls to not necessarily the overall TDLR call center, but channeling our calls to more into the health professions and trying to narrow that window, trying to get to, fewer people that can give us or consistently give the right answer, as opposed to, and I'm using a hypothetical, as opposed to trying to properly train 50 people that answer a call center. Maybe we're training 15 that's in a health professions call center, and really directing and trying, because I mean, talk about a really bad PR is that if we're giving, that's what the IRS has always been guilty of, is you call and get one interpretation today and you call tomorrow and you get a different interpretation. I'm just thinking outside the box and looking at what better ways can we make sure that we're giving the correct answer to anyone that calls in regards to our board. Thank you, and I'll yield the floor.
Brittany Webb here. Any other board members would like to comment?
Yes, this is Michael Fitch. I'd like to echo what David said. Customer service is becoming a lost art, but I would hope that this organization would step up and be the exception to that rule. There's nothing more frustrating than talking to a customer service rep on the phone and all they're doing is reading from a script. So I have confidence in TDLR and the staff that they're going to turn this around. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback for our division. And it is something that we have implemented, where we do have specialized teams that answer for athletic trainers. So once our call volume gets to a certain amount, they might spill on over to the rest of the floor and the rest of the agents that are taking our phone calls. However, we do have a specialized team that does take the health profession phone calls for athletic trainers. So I will take your feedback for sure and see how we can better assist our callers.
Mary Winston, TDLR, this meeting will be watched and rewatched. The concerns that have been evidenced will be addressed. And those folks that came on as our public speakers, public commenters, our guests today, those comments and those people will be reached. Thank you, Mr. Weir, for your suggestion. We're always looking for ways to improve. And with what we've heard in this meeting, we will take that into consideration, and not just take it into consideration, we're going to make it better. So Myra, I know how hard you work and the teams, and I want to thank you for your work. And everyone out there listening, as well as our board today, please note that we take this very seriously and it will be addressed.
Thank you very much, Mary, for that. I echo everybody and have full confidence that we can get that under control. Okay, moving on to F number 4, the Enforcement Division with Victoria Mesa.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Victoria Mesa. I'm a prosecutor for the Enforcement Division, and I'll present an enforcement's report to you today. Thank you all for being here. I'll be covering the key statistics. You can see in your report that you have statistics for the program for May of fiscal year through May of fiscal year 2023 and for all of fiscal year of 2022. Overall, athletic trainer cases are a small percentage of the department's cases. However, of the cases we do have, the average case will close in approximately 62 days from the time it's opened, which is well above the 213-day case closing average for the department as a whole across other programs. So cases are moving along really quickly in enforcement. And I've added a couple of case highlights to your packet to provide examples of 2 complaint cases that were resolved by department staff. So if you'd care to review those are in there for you. But basically that's enforcement's report for you today, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Board members, do you have any questions for Victoria?
Joseph Hebert, board member here. I don't have a question, but I do want to say this. I appreciate what the enforcement department does, because this helps us as athletic trainers continue to have high quality individuals out there working as athletic trainers and keeping our profession well oiled, and so that we're seeing good, responsible professionals out there practicing and keeping the public safe, and I appreciate that tremendously.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
One comment on this, this David Weir, that I've heard from some athletic trainers, and I don't, and I tried to explain, and I don't know that there's a procedure, so I'm not coming with an answer, more coming with a concern. The fact that, and I know, and as I explained to them, is that the relationship is in between the license holder and TDLR, and when you have the employer, the employer is really not in that mix. But on the other hand, the employer in some cases get concerned that there is a regulatory or there's a legal action going on between a license holder that's performing health care for a employer, and the employer has no idea that there is a case going on. I understand, innocent until proven guilty. I mean, I understand those things, and I don't know the best answer. In many cases, we don't even know who the employer is, because again, that relationship is, bilateral, between license holder and versus an agency. So just, that's one of the things that I've heard is just concerns from employers that they were never made aware that their employee was in trouble, for the lack of a better term. So thank you.
I appreciate that. And there is a great deal of confidentiality in all of our cases for understandable reasons. I guess if I can, I'd like to maybe try to work on that and give you a more succinct answer, and maybe cite some rules to give you a more complete answer as to why that confidentiality exists and where it is in the law, that I can give to you to hand out to those folks so they understand the reasoning behind why we don't want to necessarily alert everyone when there's an accusation, because a lot of times those accusations end up being fruitless, and we want to make sure that we're not creating any kind of witch hunt situation. We want to make sure that there's not any repercussions for perhaps an accusation that was incorrect or false, things like that. But I'd like to get back with you on that if I can, and give you something really clear that maybe you could give to your folks to help them understand as well.
And I wanted to highlight as well, Mary Winston, TDLR, that you all are medical professionals. And so there are a lot of records that are confidential and super confidential. And that bilateral relationship between the licensee and TDLR, and statutorily what we have the authority to go beyond that relationship, and we don't. But Victoria has volunteered to get kind of more information so you can see that. But I know that you all understand that. We do understand that frustration, though. But that relationship is between the licensee and the licensing body, and we don't really reach the employer. And for all the reasons Victoria said, but we can have more discussions on that coming up. But we are having to stay in that box of where our limits and responsibilities and rights are statutorily.
And we do have other programs that have this exact scenario as well.
Yeah, other medical professionals. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, and again, I completely understand and not asking us to go, it's just more of an educational effort is all that I was meaning. I completely understand that relationship and support it, as the individuals, really rights. So I am not being critical. Don't take it that way.
No, not at all, sir. And we're happy to help with any education that we can always.
Thank you. Anybody else before we move on? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to F5, which is Regulatory Program Management Division, and that is with Stuart Myrick.
Good morning, board members. Stuart Myrick here from Regulatory Program Management, or RPM, as we like to call it. You see my report there. I'll make a couple highlights. As is mentioned, I was at South Padre Athletic Training Seminar on South Padre Island early June. There was about 400 attendees, and had quite a bit of traffic coming by the booth, say hi, to ask questions, address changes, all that good stuff. Plus, had a great opportunity since I was right next to the TSATA booth. Talked to Jimmy Kendricks, who's taking over as the executive director for Spanky, and so we had a great visit. It was great to see Spanky there, obviously. But yeah, it was wonderful to be on the island back a couple weeks ago, and I'm looking forward to head to Arlington for SWATA. And on a small little, I guess, brag, next week it'll mark 16 years that I've been associated with the Advisory Board of Athletic Trainers. First 9 as the executive director under DSHS, and now finishing up year 7 tied to here at TDLR. So, and it's been a absolutely wonderful experience, an honor. Obviously, big credit to both David and Doc Schmidt, since I've been with them the longest. But the whole board, it's one of those points of pride that I have to be associated with such a great group.
Brittany
That's all I
Webb
got.
here. Thank you, Stuart. I would like to say something. I am proud that TDLR comes to our conferences that we have. I challenge TDLR to continue that. It gives the opportunity for our industry to talk to TDLR face to face, and so I appreciate that, and I challenge TDLR to continue that. Thank you very much. It does not go unnoticed that y'all are there, so I appreciate that.
Well,
Board
and
members.
okay. And we will show up wherever invited. So if they've got a conference they want to show up at, let us know, and we'll do our very best to make sure we're there.
Thank you, and congratulations on 16 years of dealing with us. Congratulations, because sometimes we can be a lot.
Hey, I enjoyed it, like I said, and I still remember the very first BOC regulatory conference where David and I met, and got to get to know each other over a steak dinner there in Omaha, Nebraska. So it's been fantastic. Not to mention, it was kind of funny walking down that hallway. You got a Longhorn and an Aggie walking together. So hey, if we can get together, there's hope for the world, right?
Right, exactly. Board members, any other comments or concerns for Stuart?
This is David Schmidt. I would like to echo Brittany's comments. The fact that TDLR does show up at SPATS and SWATA and wherever they're asked, I think it improves the communication between the regulatory agents and the guys that are out in the field, and I appreciate it. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Doc.
Joseph Abear here, and I'll echo as well. When you've come to GHATS, we've appreciated that. I've heard positive things. Stuart, I met you close to 10 years ago, and I appreciate what passion you have for the profession of athletic training, even though you are not an athletic trainer. You had me fooled that very first time I met you. I thought you were. But again, I appreciate your passion and all that you do for us.
No problem.
All right. Anything else before we go on to F6? All right, F6, Executive Officer or Office Update for Mary Winston on the 88th legislation update.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good news, we've made it through one legislative session, we've made it through one special session, and we've started another. Even better news, your profession is not involved in that. So the work that we got done, we did get done in the regular session for athletic trainers and frankly for all of our programs, unless a surprise arises, and then staff will arise to that occasion. During the session, there were just two bills that impacted athletic trainers, and Jeff Kopus is our government relations guru who tracks the thousands of bills that could affect you, and then all licensees frequently, and the hundreds of bills that finally make it through that cut, right? For you guys, it was House Bill 2495. This bill cleaned up outdated language and made CE, continuing education, more consistent with the rest of the agency. And House Bill, I think it's 2512, which further defined athletic injury and athletic training. Neither of these were earth shattering, but they will enhance the industry as we move through future legislative sessions or the one that was just called. We again do not think this impacts us at all. If any of that changes, we will definitely let you know. Please note on the first page of our website, we have 88th legislative session in a big bold box. Click on that and you will see all the bills, and these both take effect 9/1/23. You will see all the bills that affect your industry and all industries regulated by TDLR. You can click on them. There is a hyperlink to the actual site of the bill, the history, the text, the actions that were taken from the Texas legislature, so you can update your knowledge from day one of all the bills of all of those things that we regulate and how it may impact. And that is the wrap up for the update for the 88th legislative session. Does anyone have any questions?
Board members, I would like to personally thank the TSATA and the governmental affairs that were absolutely put their boots to the ground and their heels to the ground too, because there was women and men that were working that, and everybody that was up there and doing this, because our bill, we needed our language to be updated. And so for us, it was a big deal for our bill to get passed through there as an industry. And so all of those athletic trainers that were up there on Hit the Hill, I greatly appreciate their efforts and their hard work. And every athletic trainer in the state of Texas should be very proud of them because they did. So I just wanted to throw that out there so it didn't go unnoticed. Anybody else?
I just want to echo what Brittany just said. I thought the bill was huge. It's been worked through several different legislative sessions, and we got across the finish line on this one. So I think it was great. We've been asking and looking for a scope change, scope of practice change, and that was accomplished. And I applaud the work of TSATA in getting this bill done.
Joseph Abear here. Just like David just said, that was huge. Appreciate everyone that has worked on this particular bill. Updating that language was important to align with current standards in our industry. And so again, thank you so much to those individuals.
All right, anyone else before we move on? Thank you very much to everybody, all the staff reports, and for updates on that. We're going to move to item G, which is the work group assignments and update any task. And I'm going to call on Robert for this
Yes, ma'am.
section.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Just a little bit of an intro to this agenda item G. Since our last meeting, which occurred in November 2020, Mr. Hebert has joined the board, replacing Mr. Gaines. And additionally, since it's been some time since our last meeting, in the interest of transparency, we're going to update the work group assignments with all current members and assign work group tasks if necessary. Short little add to that. These work groups will be standing work groups. So as issues come up and are received by the department, they will be farmed out to those work groups. With a standing work group, we're able to be more efficient, as if we did not have standing work groups, we would have to wait until the next board meeting to place it on that agenda and then discuss it in an open forum like that. So standing work groups will be very effective and very efficient for us and get us back on track, especially with some of the new legislation that has just been passed this previous session. So with that, Chair Webb, we just to remind everybody what work groups we had previously. We had an enforcement work group, we had a licensing work group, we had an education and examination work group, we also had a standard of care work group, and finally our fifth one was an athletic trainer endorsement work group. So I'll leave it up to you, Chair, as to how you want to go about filling those work groups. Please keep in mind we have a board membership of 5. Therefore, a quorum would be 3 or more. To avoid the quorum, there will be 2 positions per work group at your convenience and pleasure, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like just to offer, I know that Mr. Hebert is new here and he may want to, you know, have a special work group or 2 that he would like to be on. Do you have the list of everybody who was on the particular work group, and we can list those and then see if they want to change or stay on, maybe?
We do, and I believe that that Angelica is showing it to us right now. We do have Mr. Hebert's name highlighted as there was a contemplation of direct slide in for Mr. Gaines.
Sure.
But again, this is a purely volunteer situation unless you want to volunteer somebody, Chair. So everything is up for discussion. This is just a visual for you with what we previously had.
Mr. Weir knows from his many years running this board, and now Ms. Webb, that, and thank you both, that the work groups are really appointed at the pleasure of the presiding officer. So there have been times, and I'm not going to put words in Mr. Weir's mouth because I don't really remember, but in other boards that folks have been voluntold when they weren't there, and then staff would notify them later. This is what happened. But this is your call, presiding officer Webb.
Okay, well, I would just, our seasoned board members, are you still okay with the work group that you see listed here? Our seasoned board members.
I am.
Madam Chair, yes, I am.
Okay. Dr. Schmidt?
Yes, ma'am.
Mike? Where?
Yes, ma'am. Sounds good.
Okay, Mr. Hebert, is it okay where you see your names highlighted there, or do you have a passion about another work group?
I am here to serve our profession at your discretion. I will take up whatever you ask me to take up.
Well, I feel like what's listed here, if everybody's pulse is okay with this, then I say let's go with this. If that's
Yes, ma'am.
okay, and you're okay with it, Mr. Hebert?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Robert and Mary, I say those would probably be the work group assignments. And on this agenda item, it says assign any task. We have been working with these work groups prior, to today, and I just want to make sure that we are still continuing with the issues that we had addressed when Molly was here. And congratulations to Molly for moving on to a newer job. And so we miss her, but we're glad she did whatever she needed to do, right? So Robert, you had some notes from her and just like rewording some rules that we had, written standing orders from a physician. We need to look at making sure that somehow we can track those. And then the written exam required for a temporary license, printed instructions for the temp license on the website. We need to really look at continuing education, which is one of the bills I think that was passed. The CE audits, looking at summer internships to count towards apprenticeship hours, pathways to license, get a little more streamlined on method B and D, and then kind of just looking at the language, customer service, and then more dates for the exams. That's what, and all of those issues can filter into these work groups that we already have. But I suggest that our work groups get to meeting pretty quickly so we can move on these issues and get them in writing and printed out and to our industry for them to comment on.
And Ms.
Madam
Webb?
Chair,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to say
Madam,
that
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
we're doing that
You-
dance. Just that staff will reach out to them. They don't have to worry about trying to call. Staff will reach out to the members of the work group too. And even before we ended up in this world in these little boxes, we were able to accommodate these work groups by not having everyone travel to Austin every time.
Right.
So, Mr. Ware?
Madam Chair and members of the staff and fellow board members, some of these work groups, we were well down the road on this. And I had a particular item that I really wanted on this agenda today that Ms. Fidel and our work group had worked on. I had contacted and had dialogue with Mr. Rivas. Well, I'd contacted him through email to have discussion on the item of having the temporary membership requirements. And I was 2 months ago, and I've never received an email or anything back from him in regards to that. So that's a bit frustrating because we were really to the point of bringing this to the board for discussion today. And so it does, as I outlined to him, it is a public safety concern. That's kind of a loophole that we had learned about 3 years ago, back prior to COVID, and that we were attempting to close. And so this item is really kind of stalled. And so I do feel like that it's something that needs to be at the top of our agenda. And I guess we can re-walk down that path again to try to explain what we are trying to do and the needs for that it is a public safety concern that we outlined. And so I throw the floor open. How best can we better communicate with staff and trying to move these items along? So I know I've been critical, but that's where I am.
Oh, no, that's fine. We appreciate that. We take the good, the bad, and when we go out for strategic planning, we say the first thing is what do we do well? And we get like, well, a couple of things maybe. And then they say, where can we improve? And they just slam us. And we say, thank you. Not that we like being slammed, but we like to know how you feel, what we need, and where we're falling short. So, Mr. Weir, I hear you. Staff will I will speak with Leonard, who he had to go and leave the meeting just a little early because he has interviews. And the issue that, of course, is not noticed because, as you note, you talked about it, but it has not come to fruition. Let's think about, as we are talking about recommendations for agenda items, we'll work through that because we're not going to mention what it is, and I don't know off the top of my head, but I will get with the work group. I'm sorry, with staff, so we can flesh out whatever that email is, and we'll be talking to you so we can get more communication and move that forward, okay?
Okay, and I
Okay.
misspoke. It was an email to Mr. Reyes, not Mr. Rivas, so
Oh,
not
Reyes,
Leonard at
okay.
all. So Mr.
Okay.
Reyes.
Leonard,
So,
if you're listening
okay.
to this, we're sorry it wasn't you.
So
But no,
he's like, I just got thrown, so no. So
but no,
apologies, I
yes,
misspoke.
yes, Mr. Reyes is taking this over from Ms. Feudel, as you know. But we also, me and Robert will get together and we'll make sure you and the other member of the work group, and we will kind of figure out where we are with this so we can get this moving forward. And I
So
think, Brittany, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
presiding officer, I jumped to H. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll go back to G for just a second. We have the assignments, and then I just challenge the staff to really quickly reach out to these work groups so we can get started, because we're ready. We're ready to work. We're ready. All of us on the board are ready to roll up our sleeves and work. And so I challenge TDLR to get the ball rolling on that. Okay, moving to item H. So recommendations for agenda items. Is there any recommendations for the next meeting? And Angelica will write these down for us on the record. If
I do want to add that it's the work group issue mentioned by Mr. Weir. That's enough for us to put a pin in it.
Okay.
And to get that, me and Robert can have that discussion and get that kind of moving. So
Okay.
that's a one work group report or something that we're anticipating. And I'd also want to add that members, if you don't have anything today, or if this meeting is like, whew, mind blown, I get off the meeting and I start thinking of all these things, please email advisory.boards@tdlr.texas.gov. 4 of us get that message, and then we can disperse that to who it needs to go to. So that's my little spiel.
Okay, other than work group updates on an agenda item, is there anything else, board, that you would like to see? Right now, we can think about it, and then we can email, as Mary said. Okay, hearing none, I will just challenge the board to think about if there's anything we need to do, and email if we need to, and then start on those work groups. All right, moving to item I, discussion of dates. So, Angelica, you want to throw some dates out for the next board meeting, preferably not 3 years down the road. Hopefully no COVID will get us this time.
Let's allow some time for the work groups to meet. So we'll
Okay.
pull the board once they've had a chance to meet. So
Okay, so let's get these work groups really going pretty soon, so we can get going with that, if that's okay with everybody.
Sounds good.
Any comments or discussions, board? Okay, moving on to item J. In conclusion, would anybody like to adjourn this meeting? And I'll adjourn it if there's no other comments or concerns. We don't need to cuss and discuss anything else. Then I would adjourn the meeting at 11:23. Do we need a motion for that, Mary?
We do not. You,
Okay.
presiding officer, can adjourn this meeting.
Okay. Well, thank y'all very much, everybody, and we look forward to working with these work groups.